basically. That's my grandmother. I'm trying to, she lives in this assisted care home outside of San Francisco, and every time I go and visit her, she complains about the cafeteria and how like the trays and the silverware, like none of her friends, they all have arthritis and they're really hard to grip. So I'm trying, after this hippo roller project, I really want the San Francisco chapter to start looking at tools for the elderly. So I've been thinking about my grandmother as a design client. Next. The homeless, like the Los Angeles chapters project. Disabled. Prisoners. This is, oh, no, you can leave it. The prison thing is actually kind of interesting. The London chapter is trying to set up a partnership with one of the prisons in London, and there's a lot of politics around that, obviously, but I think this is a pretty fascinating one. Next, please. Okay, and then sustainability versus sustainability. This is something that I've kind of personally been grappling with for a while. In fact, my graduate thesis was a lot about sustainability needing to be more human-centered. So what I mean by sustainability versus sustainability is what sustainability is now and how we talk about it and what it's sort of become versus what I think and what Project H thinks that it should be. This is a bamboo coffee table, which, don't get me wrong, it's beautiful. It's also very expensive, and everyone calls it green design, calls it sustainable and wonderful. But, is it really that much more sustainable than the hippo roller, which enables families to be more self-sustaining and be able to go to school and start businesses? There's just a whole balance of values, and I think the way that we talk about sustainability now is a little bit too focused on what things are made out of, the manufacturing process, the environmental side, which, don't get me wrong, is super important, but it's only as good as the way that it's implemented socially. My example of this, which I'm like kind of livid about, next please, are these, the bamboo cutlery, or no, sorry, not bamboo, biodegradable and compostable cutlery. It's made from the corn-based PLA plastic. And I recently discovered, because Matt told me this, this grade of plastic is, if you look on like the bottom of a PLA cup, it's number 7 plastic, which is like the category for all the stuff that doesn't fit in any other category. But it's compostable. But there aren't any cities that can recycle number 7 plastic. So then beyond that, I discovered this last week. I used this example in another lecture, and this woman told me afterwards that they tell you that this stuff is compostable, and on the bottom of the cups it says it's compostable. But that's an industrial standard, and if you actually use these in your home and had a compost pile and threw them in the compost pile, they won't compost because the standard that they're referring to is industrial composting. It has to be heated to 180 degrees in like very specific facilities. But no one knows this. So, you go to Whole Foods and you get your salad and you use this and do you throw it in the recycling or do you throw it in the trash, where you would think it would compost, but really it's going to get tied up in a bag and thrown in a landfill. So there's just like all kinds of problems that are socially rooted to this thing that environmentally is very sustainable. So I just think we need to be a little more critical about what sustainability is and how it's being implemented and measured on a more social and like human-centered way. And then need versus consumption. These are two food products. This one on the left was designed by Christina Drury, who's in the New York chapter. And this is something, she's actually in the process of prototyping this and rolling them out in limited quantities. But this is a food, a bowl and tableware system for Sudanese refugees, and it works sort of like a Russian doll. It all collapses into one single unit. And she worked really closely with a nonprofit based in New York to design this, and this was based solely on the needs of the refugees. And then you compare this to, this is the OXO salad spinner, which I think is great, and OXO is a really wonderful company, but this is very clearly a consumer product designed to sell. Not that like that's bad, but the distinction here is that I think it's like a square is a rectangle, but a rectangle is not a square. Where there's a need, there is a market, and where there is a market, there are consumers, but it doesn't necessarily go the other way. So I think, as we're approaching these projects and Design for Education is one where we're trying to do this. We're trying to look at not what will sell as our starting point, but what the need is, and then building up from there. Next. And then academics versus activism. I'm sure this is one that hits pretty close to home for you guys. You know, I'm thinking back on my own design education. I didn't do a single project that I felt had any real relevance in the world. Maybe while I was doing it, there was a social program that it worked for. But you know, you graduate from school, and all that sort of activism and politically charged work that you're doing just kind of disappears. So